want to check in with this story that's been bubbling along throughout the day, and it is the right to disconnect. So you would have heard by now that Australians will be able to ignore after-work calls. I wonder if the CFMEU ignores calls and emails from today as the right to disconnect. The laws take effect from today. So they'll protect workers from being forced to take non-emergency calls and respond to emails from their boss outside of paid working hours. And employers found to be in violation will be fined up to $18,000. Data that's been put out today found Australians work on average of 5.4 hours a week of unpaid overtime. So $131.2 billion worth of unpaid labour has been given by workers to their employers. So 133693, if you are an employer, what do you think? Kim Seeling Smith is a future work expert. Kim, good afternoon.
Hi, Jacqui.
Now, we've been talking a lot about the CFMEU on the other side of things, but what about the right to disconnect? Do you think it's a good thing?
I think that it's a good thing if you are a shift worker and rostered onto a particular time and get paid overtime for the time that you are not rostered on. If your employer contacts you after working hours, I think that you should have the right to disconnect. But let's face it, most of the country now works in knowledge-based jobs, or a significant portion, maybe not most, but a significant portion of the country works in knowledge-based jobs. And it's the whole old school paradigm about measuring people's time instead of people's output. And if we measured people's output, because then with the right to disconnect, it also negates everything that the workers are fighting for, to be able to work remotely, to work when they want, where they want, and as long as they're doing what they need to do. So it's a really flawed piece of legislation based in old school thinking.
Very, very interesting. So is it the solution then to a work-life balance? Does the term work-life balance really exist in reality?
No.
No.
No. It's work-life integration. You've got to integrate integrate your work life into your life. And this has been a real push for the last 15 years probably, but especially since COVID, because, the lockdowns, especially in Victoria, the lockdowns really gave us all a reset to say, you know what, before the lockdowns, I was just running like a hamster on a hamster wheel, concentrating on my job, concentrating on work, taking care of my family. And now that I got a chance to get off that hamster wheel, a lot of us are looking at that wheel going, I don't want to get back on.
Mm. Okay, so what industries would it affect the most here? Because I know in our workplace, for example, Alyssa and I talk all the time. We have a WhatsApp group, but they don't have to check it till they're within working hours. But we tend to have a relationship where we don't mind talking to each other out of hours.
Exactly. And that's exactly the point, is if you give people the choice and people, if you hire the right people, most people want to come to work to add value. They want to come to work to be productive. So this just puts some boundaries in where there don't need to be boundaries and makes people say, okay, well, if that's a boundary, I don't want you to cross it, rather than encouraging people to collaborate and to talk to each other when and if they feel like they've got something to add, or when they feel like they're productive.
And having organisations put out emails saying that, today's the day, I think Telstra is one of them, and these are the new rules. Would you expect to see more of that?
Oh, yeah, I'd expect to see more of that, but there's still so much confusion over this legislation. I mean, they're really building the plane as they're flying it. So, this is going to get really, really complicated. And I think that it could get ugly. And I suspect that the people who are really going to make the money out of the right to disconnect legislation are the lawyers.
Exactly right. And what about small business as well?
Yeah, it's a tough one because, small businesses, especially, and finding the right staff is so hard these days. So if you're a small business and you've got somebody who's just left and, you would like them to come back and they've been willing to come back in the future, are you as a small business owner going to feel like you have the option to call them back into work to work an extra shift, or do you feel like you might be dobbed in for this and face a fine? I mean, it's really, really complicated and frustrating.
Agree with that. Kim Seeling Smith is a future work expert. Appreciate your thoughts today, Kim.
Thanks so much, Jacqui.